Paddy Pimblett, Jorge Masvidal, and Sean O'Malley. These three fighters have honestly become the three worst hype trains in today's UFC. And before you go commenting, oh, isn't Jorge Masvidal's hype train already derailed since he got knocked out? Or isn't Sean O'Malley good? How could he possibly be a hype train? Don't worry, because in this video, I'll explain why these three fighters are still hype trains that are still intact thanks to the UFC and Dana White giving them unfair special treatment. And I'll also explain why these three hype trains are damaging the long-term integrity of the UFC and the sport of MMA as a whole. And if you haven't already, stop guessing and losing money betting on UFC and get the bets from an actual professional sent directly to your phone for every UFC card using our website, ufcbettingpro.com, so you can make passive income just from betting on UFC. But anyway, let's get into the video. First is Paddy Pimblett. Honestly, this one's probably the most obvious one on the list, considering what happened in his last fight against Jared Gordon in December of last year. But let's be real here. Anyone with half a brain knows that Jared Gordon won 2 of those rounds and definitely deserved to win the fight. I know it, you know it, Dana White knows it, even Paddy Pimblett himself probably knows it. And the fact is, Paddy Pimblett has basically become Dana White's lapdog, and it was made more than clear when Paddy tried to suck up to Dana by creating this beef with Dana's sworn nemesis, Ariel Helwani, after Paddy literally told Ariel that he wouldn't do an interview with him unless he paid him.
I can't believe fighters and managers have got the audacity to ask me for money. Why wouldn't we? You're a content creator.
Wait, who the f are you? Who the f are you? This dude's ego is so massive and he thinks he's whatever.
But the worst part is, after that completely fudged decision and botched card that was UFC 282, Dana went to the post-fight press conference and did whatever he could to divert attention from the complete robbery that was that Paddy Pimblett decision and spent it ripping on the main event fight between Jan Blachowicz and Magomed Ankalaev. And he basically talked about how neither of the fighters deserved to become a champion and immediately went on to announce that Glover Teixeira and Jamal Hill would be fighting for that vacant light heavyweight title. Just think about it. When's the last time that Dana has ever announced the next title fight after the last one just happened 1 hour ago? To me, it was completely obvious that Dana was doing whatever he could to divert attention from one of the worst robberies in recent UFC history. And to me, it's clear that they're trying to keep this Paddy Pimblett hype train alive for as long as possible so that they can eventually feed him to some top contender and create some sort of super fight. Next is Jorge Masvidal. As much as the UFC and Dana White have been trying to make this hype train happen, as they continue to feed him into main event slots, shoving down our throats over and over again, the fact is, Jorge Masvidal is and always has been a journeyman. It all started when he got that lucky flying knee against Ben Askren, and let's be honest here, if that knee did not finish Ben Askren would have taken him down and grinded him out for a 3-round decision, and you really can't change my mind on that. But after that win over a senile Ben Askren just 1 fight before his retirement fight, Dana White proceeded to give Jorge Masvidal a shot at an unironically fake belt, the BMF belt, against another journeyman, Nate Diaz, which to this day is the most random and WWE-esque title fight I've ever seen in UFC history. No defenses of the belt, just a random belt made out of thin air and presented to you by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It doesn't get any more pro wrestling than that. And after that, he proceeded to get 2 title shots against Kamaru Usman, the second of which, of course, he got knocked out cold by someone who Jorge himself has claimed has no stand-up game. And again, after that, another pay-per-view main event against Colby Covington in a fight which he got completely melted. And of course, just a week after that, he proceeds to attack Colby Covington on the streets of Miami in proper street Jesus fashion and gets arrested. And the worst part is, now he has a fight scheduled against another top contender in Gilbert Burns, and even though I don't think that fight will be remotely close, if Jorge Masvidal did hypothetically win that fight, I'm pretty confident that they would give him another title shot against Leon Edwards this time, and they would try to sell that old beef narrative from the 3-piece in a soda attack that Jorge Masvidal did to Leon Edwards back in 2019, even though there are plenty of welterweight fighters that are more deserving of the shot. And lastly is Sean O'Malley. And as much as it pains me to say this, because I am a fan of his and I do think he is a good fighter, it's so obvious that the UFC is giving him special treatment, and he honestly might not be as good as the UFC is trying to sell us on. If you watched his last fight against Peter Yan, you would know what a ridiculous robbery that fight was. Even as a Sean O'Malley fan, I know that Peter Yan won 2 rounds in that fight and deserved the decision. And with that BS win over Yan, Sean O'Malley is now the number #1 ranked bantamweight and is in the perfect spot to get the next title shot against the winner of Henry Cejudo versus Aljamain Sterling. And even though I can kind of understand why he would get the shot before the winner of Cheeto versus Sandhagen, the fact is Sean's last fight with Peter Yan really exposed the weaknesses that Sean has in his game. And I think if Sean actually did end up fighting Aljamain Sterling for the title, his hype train would get derailed immediately, because honestly, Aljamain Sterling is levels above Sean O'Malley. But if Henry Cejudo does end up beating Aljamain Sterling, that would be a more interesting matchup between Sean and Henry, and I can honestly see both fighters having a path to victory there. Overall, the reason why these three hype trains are just so bad for the longevity and the integrity of the UFC and the sport of MMA as a whole is because even though these guys might sell a lot of pay-per-views in the short term, the outright BS decisions that these guys are being awarded to build up their resume and hype is a slippery slope that turns MMA into turning into the next boxing or pro wrestling. And I know a lot of you guys have been sold this idea that, oh, the judges are just bad, they have nothing to do with the UFC, they work for the State Athletic Commission, right? But let's be clear here. These judges have been working with the UFC for decades now. And every time that they give a suspect decision to the undefeated prospect that they're trying to build up, or the champion that they want to keep in the limelight because they sell a lot of pay-per-views, just ask yourself, is it actually a coincidence? Keep in mind, these judges like Saldi Amato, for example, have been working with the UFC for decades. And you mean to tell me that this guy has no communication or relationship with Dana White or any of the guys that run the UFC whatsoever? And you think a guy that makes a very mediocre salary for a government job judging MMA fights for a living wouldn't take a couple extra $100,000 just to make sure a UFC star can keep his perfect record and continue to rake in millions of dollars for the UFC? Well, just think about that the next time you see.
All three judges score this contest 29-28 for the winner by unanimous decision, Paddy!
Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, stop guessing and losing money betting on UFC and get UFC bets and breakdowns from an actual professional sent directly to your phone by using our website ufcbettingpro.com so that you can make passive income just from betting on UFC. And be sure to watch these two videos right here for my breakdown for two massive fights coming up soon and who I'll be betting on. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.